Okay, so a dude's thoughts asks, he says, I'm confused about the concept of lust. Does that mean we can't be attracted to women? What is the difference between natural sexual attraction and lusting? That seems to be wrong in the Bible. Well, that is a great question. I'm glad you asked it. It's not an easy one, right? That's something that can sometimes make us feel a little bit awkward. Okay, but this is definitely a great question because I think there's um, well, just as you're confused, I think there's often some confusion about this. So let's talk about these different things. Let's go back to the Bible, and we're going to go back to the Ten Commandments. Okay, so this is in Exodus chapter 20. Exodus chapter 20. God is laying out the Ten Commandments. And what is number 10? This is kind of the overlooked commandment, in my opinion. What does it say? You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, nor his male servant, nor his female servant, nor his ox, nor his donkey, nor anything that is your neighbor's. Wow. Why? What is wrong with coveting? I mean, what does it mean to covet my neighbor's house? Okay, so let's say that my neighbor has a really beautiful house. All right, and I start coveting. What am I actually doing when I'm coveting my neighbor's house? Well, I'm having thoughts like this. Why does he get to have such a nice house? What makes him so special that he gets to have that house and I don't, right? That really is the crux of the matter. Why does he get that and I don't get that? All right, then I go to the next thing. Don't covet your neighbor's wife. Hey, he's got a really beautiful wife. Why does he get to have that beautiful wife and I don't get to have that beautiful wife? You see what happens is that when I start coveting somebody's stuff, really when I'm lusting after something, I'm thinking there's something out there that I want and I cannot have, and it's not fair. This is kind of the standard 2-year-old tantrum. I want it now, and we throw a fit. But you know, there's sometimes I would not give my kids when they were really little. I would not give them certain things because they were not healthy for them. But other times, and in fact, a lot of the time, they just had to ask me and not have a tantrum, and I was happy to give them those things. So let's go back to our neighbor's house and our neighbor's wife. My neighbor has a gorgeous house. Why does he get to have that gorgeous house? Why don't I get to have that a gorgeous house? Well, look, the house that you're looking at, your neighbor's house, is already taken, right? He lives in it. But you know what? There are other houses out there, and if you ask your father, he just might give you one too, right? Instead of having a tantrum about it, saying, you know, Lord, are there other houses out there? Is there maybe one for me? And he's like, yeah, actually, there are other houses, and I'm willing to work with you so that we can get you a beautiful house. And I want to bless you with a beautiful wife. Okay, and so this is what happens is we start thinking that it's a zero sum game. That if my neighbor has it, then I don't get it. I'm missing out. I'm being cheated. God's not giving to me. And so what happens with the area of lust is that we start looking at a woman or sometimes a man, okay, whatever it may be in our modern world, all right, and we start saying, I want that. I've got to have that. That should be mine. I deserve that. And instead of asking the Lord, Lord, bless me with a wonderful wife. Okay, yes, I want her to be pretty. All right, and because you built me with natural sexual desires, and so that is something that is a gift from you. But I want to use it in the right context, and so it's operating in the right context that God's like, go for it, right? So the marriage bed is holy. Okay, so within the context of a marriage, you can go for it, all right, and you can enjoy the wife of your youth. In fact, the Bible tells you to enjoy her body. Okay, and Paul makes sure, hey, the man is to enjoy her body because it actually it belongs to him, and she's to enjoy his body because it actually belongs to her. And so within the context, the right context, it's a beautiful, wonderful thing. But when it's in an incorrect context, and I'm just kind of lusting, lusting, and I'm just coveting things and wanting things that are not mine, I don't have any right to those things, it will end in pain and misery. And that is why God tells us not to lust. All right, not only after people or women, but after, houses and other things too. Because what happens, and this is something that I was meditating on some time ago about coveting, is that if I covet long enough and I really focus on it, right? I start, let's take my neighbor's house again. If I keep saying, well, why does he get to have it and I don't? What that's going to do is it's going to eventually manifest in my life. Now, if we go back to the other 10 commandments, especially the latter ones that deal with humans, I might start breaking one of those other commandments. Because it's interesting, there's no specific commandment or there's no specific penalty against coveting. Okay, that if you covet, you get 20 lashes or something. We're not told that, right? If you covet, you have to repay. No, there's really nothing about that. But what happens is that coveting will lead me to break one of the other commandments. Okay, so let's think about it. If I'm coveting my neighbor's wife, I'm lusting after her, and I continue to lust after her, one of the actions I could potentially take is that I go and I commit adultery. All right, now that's a real problem. All right, if I commit adultery, because I've taken what belonged to another man, in this case his wife, and I've now appropriated her. I've stolen her for myself. All right, I've taken what was holy between them, and I've now interjected myself and put myself in a very bad situation. Okay, well, let's take his house. Why does he get that and I don't? So that could lead to a number of things. It's hard to steal a house necessarily, but it is certainly possible. I could do some kind of contriving scheme to make him lose it. I could also kill him. And I could kill him and then take it. Right? That's what Ahav did to Naboth. He just killed him. Or was it Naboth? Or yeah, I think it was Naboth. He just killed him. I want his vineyard, and he was coveting his vineyard. And so Jezebel's like, "Don't worry, honey, I'll find a way to do it." And so that's exactly what she did. She by his coveting, she was then inspired to bear false witness against him. She against Naboth. She then had him murdered, and of course then they stole his vineyard. So by coveting, we're going to eventually, if we continue to practice the coveting, we will break one of the other commandments. Now, it's also interesting, in the light of neuroscience, we understand now that the things that we continue to focus on, we actually begin to grow neurological pathways in our brains. And so if we continue to focus on a particular thing, now this can be a very good thing, right? So professional athletes, people who are Olympians, they're training, they're focusing their mind, and by doing mind training, it's been proven. The Russian scientists did a study. There were 4 different groups of people, and so there was one that only did physical, one that did they did different numbers of things, but the ones that did a lot of mental training actually performed the best. All right, they performed the best because of the mental training. So when you're lusting, you're doing mental training, but it's bad training, okay? Because that training is going to eventually lead you to do an action that is not healthy, that will lead you to potentially actually doing real adultery, potentially stealing someone's wife or their fiance or someone's future wife or something like that. It may cause you to lie about it. It could cause you to murder. There's so many different scenarios, and I can't list them all here, of course, but that's what happens when we lust. And so we want to be careful to not lust, because it's not healthy. It's not good for us. Not that God's trying to, be a killjoy, and it's not that you can't appreciate women. Okay, you certainly can, but you've got to be careful, right, to not, to take it too far. All right. Now, let me just say something else about this topic. Just because you get a thought in your mind, it doesn't mean that you're lusting. It's when you have some kind of an X-rated thought, okay, that stays in your mind, and you continue to own it and to embrace it. That's when it becomes a problem. All right. So so just because you have a fleeting thought, if it comes through and it fleets in, let it fleet out. Okay, hey, you're not wanted. Okay, just here's the door. See you later. Um, so don't stress about random thoughts. Okay, I would encourage you though, as you now focus on what is good. All right, so don't focus on, okay, I can't lust, I can't lust, I can't lust. Right, that's like thinking, don't think about pink elephants. Right, what do you think about pink elephants? Right, so you're never going to beat this thing by saying, okay, I got to stop lusting, because you'll never do it. But what you want to do is focus on righteousness, focus on what is beautiful. Think of, in your mind, try to imagine God. What does he look like? Right? He's on his throne. He's got this raiment of light. What could that be like? What might it feel like to be in his presence? And lose yourself in that. Because ultimately, when you're lusting, there's something beautiful. In this case, a woman, and she's beautiful, and you're attracted to that beauty. But there are other things like God's beauty that are wonderful. Okay, and so if we start to train our mind, all right, that is where we start to find victory. But not trying to overcome the bad stuff, but by focusing on the good stuff, and really be that athlete that's going to meditate on those things, on the good things, right? Whatever is noble, whatever is pure, whatever is true, meditate on these things, Paul says, and the peace of God will be with you. And so that's what we want to do. But again, God is not saying you can't enjoy women. He created them, and he has one for you, all right? And that's the beauty. But you have to appreciate that woman's beauty within the context of a committed relationship, and then it's a wonderful thing. But if it's just here and there, it will lead to depression. It will lead to it could lead to very more physical manifestations, which could include adultery. It could include stealing, murder, all kinds of bad stuff. And I think we see enough of that on TV to you kind of know where I'm going with that stuff. So we want to be careful.